What's up, Tenno? Let's go farming for plastids and mutagen samples. Alright, so for this I'm running Khora Prime. Now you can run Khora and this works just fine. Let's go ahead and take a look at the build. Alright, the main thing you want to focus on here is the mod Pilfering Strangledome. This mod causes enemies that are trapped within the Strangledome to have a 65% chance of dropping additional loot. And that's what we want when we're farming mutagen samples and plastids, because those are resources that are dropped by enemies primarily. You can find some of those resources in the environment as far as breakables, but not very often. Your main focus is going to be taking out enemies to get that resource. All right, so let's take a look at the rest of my build here. I'm running Steel Charge up here because that increases melee damage. And then Coaction Drift gives you a benefit of an additional 15% from your ores, but it also benefits your squad, not just yourself. So if you're running a team for this farming adventure you're doing, it does benefit your squad as well. And then the two arcanes I'm running here are Arcane Reaper, which works in conjunction with Steel Charge, because if you're increasing melee damage and you're getting melee kills, you get health regen plus additional armor, which then the extra armor reduces damage to your health. And if you have a weapon that has good crit hits and you're getting crit often, you have a 60% chance of having an additional 120% melee damage, more or less, depending on the level of your arcane. So these four mods kind of work in together. These two arcanes kind of work with these two. Now, this is a Steel Path build I've done here, so there is some additional survivability involved versus if you were in a normal mission. Steel Fiber increases your armor further. We're at 690 here, so you have about 70, like right under 70% of damage reduction to your health. And then your Arcane Reaper here gives an additional 440 armor on top of your 690, further reducing your damage to health. And then Adaptation here causes you to have a 10% resistance for a damage type up to 20 seconds. And that stacks to 90%. So if you keep taking the same damage type over and over each time you take that damage, you start building resistance to it, and you take less and less damage from that specific type, which is a big help with Steel Path missions. Then Rolling Guard works as a great last resort. So if you're in a group of enemies and you're getting hammered pretty good, this makes it so on dodge, you become invulnerable to damage, and then it also clears all the status effects. So you can use it if you start noticing you have a lot of status effects on you, you want to get rid of them, you can do a dodge, which is your roll. And then also if you're in a group of enemies and you're getting hammered and you notice your shields are gone and your health is getting low and you're about to go down, you can do the same thing, and it gives you invulnerability. So then you can figure out, whether you can get away from the enemies a little bit to let your shields come back up, or what you can do to prevent yourself from becoming down. It's kind of it works good with an adaptation and Steel Fiber increasing your armor, but this is actually something that gives you survivability in a pinch if you're getting into a tight situation where you need to get away from the enemies. Now, Archon Flow I'm running for two reasons. One is because it does give you more energy, which allows you to drop Strangledome twice and have less chance of running out of energy for the total of 641. But there's another reason, and we'll go over that when we're done in this screen here. Now, Augur Reach and Stretch, these two increase your ability range here. So you'll see that the ability range is at 175, and with Strangledome, our dome now is at 8.75 meters. But the grab radius is at 17.5 meters. So by having a larger dome, the dome itself can reach out further and grab the enemies from a greater distance and pull them in, which allows for more enemies to be held. And then, as you get more enemies held into it, you can then kill the enemies and you get more loot drops, or you get the chance of more loot drops. And then Prime Continuity here increases our duration by 55%. So our duration's at 155. And then we can see here our duration is now 31 seconds on the domes. So we don't have to cast the domes as often. You get 31 seconds per dome. So if you cast your 2 domes, one in front or one behind you, if you're in like a hallway or wherever you're at, you have your 2 domes set up to where it's pulling in as many enemies as you can on each dome. You have 31 seconds between each cast that needs to be done. So it gives you a little bit more time between casting. Now, you'll see also our strength is at 135, and there's no strength mods, and that's because we're running Archon shards on this build. One other thing I have here is not really a mod, it's a Fire Blast. This is a subsumed ability in the helmet. This is not something you have to have. This is just something I use every now and then. I've kind of been testing and playing around with, and it actually causes you to reduce the armor of your enemies, but it also sets them on fire and does damage over time. Now, this with the increased ability strength, it does do 270 heat damage, but then the radius is at 43.75 meters because of auger reach and stretch. So this does have a very large radius of its effectiveness. So let's go ahead and look at the Archon shards that I'm running. Now, the Archon shards I have here are 3 ability strength shards. But the other 2 are violet shards, and that's the reason for wanting to have our max energy over 500, because these do 25% critical damage, but if your energy is over 500%, it doubles, making so these 2 shards with each other do a total of 100% melee crit damage. And that's basically adding that to whatever your melee weapon is. So if whatever your melee weapon currently has, it just increases your melee critical damage further. The other piece to this farming build is your companion. Having the Shemitah Kavat with you is a important piece of this because of charm. It does give you a 40% chance every 27 seconds for it to bestow you with good fortune, and that can make it so you are getting even more resource drops, or loot drops from the enemies that are held within Strangledom. That further increases that RNG, or the luck, as the game uses. The other thing that is important to remember about this is also make sure you stop in at a relay and try to get you a blessing, for like resource blessing, because it can help. But if you don't, the other thing you can do is you can go into the market here and you go down to equipment and boosters, and just make sure you grab a resource booster or a resource drop chance booster, or both of them. I actually run both of these when I'm doing farming. You can run those, or if you know you're going to be doing farming, you can run the 30-day resource boosters. But at minimum, if you're going to be doing farming for a day or 2 or 3 days straight, just grab 2 of these. They're 40 platinum each, and they give you a chance to increase the drop chance, and it doubles your resources. So these will help further in your farming adventure. But if you grab those and then go to a relay and get a blessing from a player who is master rank 30 or higher, that can further increase your chance of luck. Now, for Pilfering Strangledom, if you're wondering where to get that, let's go over here to our factions. And you're going to want to go to Steel Meridian, and about halfway down, I think is what it is. Yeah, right here. So halfway down is Pilfering Strangledom. And this will cost you 25,000 of the faction points. So you'll have to rank up a little bit. I think you need to be a specific rank. I don't remember exactly which one, but you'll need to rank up a little bit and unlock that tier, and then at least have 25,000 of the faction points to use to purchase that. But Steel Meridian is where you get the Pilfering Strangledom from. Now, you can also trade for it, but this is where you would get it from if you want to just buy it yourself. And the last piece we need to talk about here is where to go. Now, when it comes to mutagen samples, the best place I have found so far is an endless survival called Terrorum. Now this, like I said, you can run it on both normal mode or Steel Path. The Steel Path mode, you just have more enemies and you do get greater drops. So Steel Path is what I recommend for farming. But if you don't have that unlocked yet, you don't have to worry about it. Just run Terrorum. and stay there as long as you can, and just keep your domes dropped. Make sure the enemies are getting grabbed and held by the strangle dome before you dispatch them. If you don't, you're not going to get the extra loot drop chance. You have to make sure that they're actually captured by the dome. But Terrorum is for mutagen samples. And then for Plastids, go over here to Eris and go over here to Zabala. So those both are endless survival missions that you can just post up somewhere, whether you're cornered yourself into a room or if you're standing in a hallway somewhere, and have your domes dropped at each end of the hallway, or however you have yourself set up. But basically get to a spot that you're comfortable with, drop your domes, let the enemies get held by the dome, and then just keep killing the enemies and just stay as long as you can, and you'll just keep on getting more and more loot drops. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. And make sure to head over to our live stream channel over at twitch.tv/Reaper's Game Room. And if you have any questions, please post them in the comments below. Until next time, happy hunting, Tenno.